have a section to talk about hiring at some point?
Sure.
Yeah, that's actually maybe,
I didn't want to jump ahead if it's coming up.
yeah, there's one that Danny and I have talked about, what job seekers are looking for these days, and type of culture.
What questions did you have first?
I'm just curious about people's hiring practices and how do you, I think in my experience, there are times when you hire out of desperation and you'll take people because you need them, you need bodies. I know.
That's a big mistake.
I know. But I work with a lot of,
I was hired that way. Yeah, see how it turned out.
well, I work with a lot of manufacturing organizations and that's a tough industry because they kind of do need bodies in the small towns around here. And so that's one thing. And then another thing is how selective, it's really fun to be really, really selective and to be really sure of what you're looking for. And if there are practices or policies, not policies, I hate that word anyway, but if there are practices that you've all used to find really good employees by the way you advertise for them, or is it face-to-face, is it people you know, what's the best way to get the best employees, I guess?
Those are a couple of us.
Oh, so many questions.
No, I know, that's a conversation.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, because in our CEO groups, all of our CEOs, and we're working with $1 million to $1 billion companies, but when we come to hiring, and I agree with you, Jody, too, I hate to see a 500-page policy manual. That's kind of the punitive approach to policy, but we do need some. But what we focus on is we say, what are your core values? Because if you're building a culture, you need to have core values. And I don't mean some pretty art on the wall. This is the bloodline of the company. We hire, we fire, we even remove CEOs from their own companies because they're not abiding by the core values that the organization was driving by. And it is amazing that I would say that 90% of performance issues are a violation of core values. And if you have that piece in place and your leadership is really driving with core values, a lot of the issues don't come up. And then again, when you have a performance issue, it's now about that person and their performance against the core value, not against management. And that's a real game changer in how you work with people performance. But that's probably one of the things I spend 60% of my time on.
And that's a hot topic right now for job seekers too. When you talk about company culture and core values, that's what they are striving for, is to get into an organization where their values and beliefs align with the organization. The important piece as an employer to remember, you can have your written mission and your written values, but are you truly living them? Because if you're not, that employee is going to recognize that within the first day of employment, and then the credibility of the organization just goes down. So I challenge employers when we get on this topic is, how do you think your culture is, and how is it really, and how do you find that out? It's communicating with your employees. It's actually listening. We've implemented, I was just talking with Kim here, a tool called Tiny Pulse. If anybody's used that and utilized that, it's a portal, web-based, where you can ask an employee a question. Each week this question is out, sent to everybody, and then they can answer it. It's confidential, but the leadership team looks at that and really sees, what are some things that we need to improve on as an organization. So.
That came up last month at our tech workshop, was talking about
The other one,
that.
sure, the other one.
Do you use Office Web?
Yeah.
Yeah, Office Live.
Okay.
Tiny Pulse, I think, is the one out of Bergen is invested in it. And Office Live, but of our 50 CEOs, I would say 40 of them are using Tiny Pulse as a part of that core value and checking up, what kind of leadership issues do we have in our organization?
Yeah.
Because Tiny Pulse and Office 5 are the two that are most common, I think.
And I think it's important to note too that a number of our members who are using those tools for staff feedback are actually tracking that and setting goals for employee satisfaction. So they're using that as a non-financial metric that they are tracking on a weekly, monthly basis. So they're not just looking at their scorecards and what the numbers are, they're looking at, they're getting client satisfaction scores back through other tools, but they're also getting employee feedback. And they want a satisfaction level of a certain amount, or they've got a strategic issue in their organization that they have to deal with.
Right. And the other important piece of this too is, you get the feedback from the employees, what is your action plan? What is your response? If that piece is not happening, then the engagement and belief in what you're doing as leaders, it doesn't hold strong.
So is this weekly feedback?
Yes.
Yep, it's weekly, yep.
I think a real important piece to remember in that process also is
When it comes to core values, first of all, the company's got to identify their core values and they have to embody and live those things. But you have to interview people to those core values. This isn't about getting a prospective employee to embrace your core values. They must already own those. And when those two align naturally, without any sort of, okay, I'll adjust myself to fit this culture, that's where the real connection is made. That's where a real culture can be created. But important to note that somebody isn't going to adjust to their core values because of the job.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right.
So have a policy manual, but also live that policy manual. Set the example.
True. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, speaking of
That
culture.
wasn't really a question, it was more of a conversation. And I'm just really curious about what you're seeing. The question, go back, what was the question about culture? What type of culture are they drawn to? What do you?
I can share all sorts of.
I know you and I know a lot, we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk. Anybody who wants to talk afterwards, I'll be open to staying.
Or across the street.
Or across the street, yeah.
Yeah, this bar is,
So, culture, obviously, but also people want to join an organization where they are valued, of course, but have an opportunity to learn and grow both professionally and individually.
Are you really seeing that now? I mean, that sounds great. Are you really seeing that they are open to wanting to learn and grow?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I feel like in Fargo, I don't know you guys, that's not tape. It feels like we're good, and good is the enemy of great. And I see so many people who are like, no, I don't want to learn, I'm good. No, I'm good.
Must be millennials.
Yeah, and those are going to be, you're going to have those individuals, but again, what do you want for your employees? Do you want to have career development? Not necessarily if you're a small organization and you don't have the layers, but do you give them an outlet to do some professional learning, some additional training if that's important to you? Yeah, and those individuals that don't want them, then they're not good for your organization if that's what you believe in and want for your employees. And by having those things, that's where the engagement truly happens because you're investing.
And maybe we're talking to the choir because we're all here, you know what I mean? So we're going to have that same opinion. I just wonder if that's true for the majority of employers or if they're like, don't make me learn anything.
It depends on the situation. It depends on, where is that individual in their life? What?
As the CEO group or as the ownership, the people who are looking for the employers, I'm curious about that. Or employees, the people who are looking for employees, are their companies honest?
Well, Jody, I think that goes back to how well does the organization apply its core values.
Yes.
And I refer to them as the art on the wall.
Right.
Because I would say if I went down the street, and I don't care if it's Fargo or Minneapolis or Chicago or Tampa or wherever, and you walk into a company and they've got, yep, here's our core values, here's our mission and vision, and it's nice art on the wall. And you talk to the receptionist or the person at the phone and said, how often do they follow those? And they said never. Mm-hmm. I would get that probably 9 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. So it tells you that that's not a doubt in there. Just like you said before, if you hire me and I come and within the first day or 2 days, I'm seeing nothing but violations of what you said were your core values, I'm out of here.
Right.
and I'm not going to. But I think when you're hiring, and this is one thing we really push, is that core values become a very, very integral part of the hiring process. We actually use that as a strong filter to chase away people. Because, for example, a couple of core values, some of our companies, the truth always wins. In this company, we always tell the truth. It doesn't matter if that hurts us or helps us, we always tell the truth. All of a sudden, there are people that don't want the job because they don't want to work in that, because they want to be able to manipulate in a negative way. On the other hand, you attract people who want to really say, I want an honest, open organization. You say we're highly innovative. We expect full innovation from everybody out of our organization. Somebody who's looking just for a job doesn't want that, so you filter them out. But I think the question is if you're really living your core values, that really attracts and drives that process, and it needs to be part of your interview process and your onboarding.
Right. And, employers to be living that, or they're saying they're providing these resources to the individuals. I go back to the core values. Ask yourself, are you living your core values? And, take a look at your turnover. And why is there a turnover? Is it, is it a bad hire, or is it something that you're doing? Those are two big questions I would ask myself as an employer.
I got a question about turnover, because I've run into a few companies that have high turnover and they think it's just the cost of doing business because it's the age of the people they're hiring. Would you say that's partly true, or is that changing? When you're hiring 20 and 30-year-olds, what are you seeing?
This could be an all-day discussion.
I love it. Yeah, this is fascinating.
I think everybody has their own opinions on this, and the millennials, it's been times very negative conversations. And again, I go back to the core values. I truly, truly believe in that. The millennials, if they're in an area where there's that development, they're able to set goals and work together with their leaders and believe in their leadership team. I believe that piece will retain the individuals. There's so much creativity that can come from the younger generation that you can really incorporate in your companies. We've done that at Preference, and yes, it's changed hard, and no, we've done this and it works. But then you realize that you are your company is not rising, it's not improving, it's not increasing. So there's benefits in that. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Well, I think when leaders are aware that you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And we can't be upset with what we tolerate as employers, because those are clues, like to what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess my question back to you, Jody, is, and I'm just throwing it out for speculation. Whose definition of great is great? Whose definition of good is good? Or maybe their definition of good is good enough.
Right.
And I say that based on, we had a discussion at the table, the millennials. What, 1980 to 2000, right? Largest generation in U.S. history. Are you as an employer adapting to them? I don't know if you're asking that, but I'm throwing it out there to say, hey, these are my core values, I'm set in my ways. Don't take this wrong, and don't take this away from your company, because I believe in missions and core values, but they might not care. They might not care. There's two things that bother this group of people. One is they're underutilized, okay? Two is they haven't been taught, and Harlan, take this, write it down, they haven't been taught leadership.
No, they haven't.
They haven't.
No.
And that's what they're looking for. You know that 25% of those people today, okay, if they could quit their job or move on, they would do it within a year. 44% of them would do it within 2 years, and 66% of them would do it by 2020. And I'm not in the business. I've hired people, I've helped companies hire people. I refer them on if I can, okay? My business has been more retention orientated with not only a compensation and benefit analysis, and when I say benefits, it has nothing to do with health insurance. It has something to do with health and dental and vision and retirement. But sit down with that business owner and say, hey, what do you think is the most important thing that your employee sees in this company? And what's second, what's third, and what's fourth, and what's 10th? Ask the employees the same question, and every time I've done it, those two do not meet until about number 5 on the list. Do they start to agree that what's important to them is important to me as an owner, or vice versa? So, yeah, I'm still with you, don't get me wrong, but you have to throw so many more variables in there, I think, today than we ever had to.
Overall with millennials and generationals, I was sitting with one of my CEOs the other day, and we were talking about workforce millennials and stuff, and he's looking for people. And I asked him, he's about 50, and I said, do you realize that our parents said the same thing about us when we were 19? And then he starts saying, yeah, and I don't want my kids or my grandkids to ever know the crap I pulled.
Now it's on the internet.
So I think one of the things is that every generation is different. And I've seen this multiple times now in business, where we have to adapt to every generation is a little bit different. And the only thing I can say is, well, look at the parents, and we're the parents. So, you know, we raise that group, and we allow things to happen or not happen. But I have, over half of my CEOs are under 30. And they are some of the most ambitious, hardworking, creative people that are out there. Do they need some direction? And you're right, they haven't been taught leadership.
Right.
And that's where they're struggling the absolute most, is they just don't understand leadership. They understand community, and they understand cooperation, collaboration very well. But to stand up and be the leader is not necessarily something that they've exhibited a lot.
Kind of on their own time frame.
Yeah. So
it might not be 8 to 5, it might be noon to midnight.
Yeah, and that's a good point there, Kim. When I have friends that say, "Patty, I hate working the 8 to 5 job," well, why do you have that job? I mean, you knew that going into it, so I think it falls on the millennial or the employee too sometimes, but also on the employer too, where I think people my age want to be motivated. They look for something more than just pay these days. I know that's generalizing, it's not necessarily true for everyone, but I think a lot of us value time more than money, whether it be flexibility in their jobs, you know, more vacation time and sacrifice pay or something like that. I find that a lot with people my age. But once again, they gotta adapt to the real world too. I mean, you know, don't get a job you're working 8 to 5 if you don't want to do that. Go get a more flexible sales job or something. So I think it falls on both sides from what I've seen.
My name's Aaron McWilliams, and I'm a millennial. just want to put that out there. But I mean, as an employer, I own a factory in Hillsboro. We manufacture little candles that burn in circles. And one of the most important things I think I've realized is that the way that the millennials think about the world and the way that our parents think about the world are entirely different. As a millennial, I want to know transparency. I want to know exactly what's happening and why. My parents' generation, and I've noticed this among older individuals that I've employed, we'll say the 50-plus crowd that I've employed, they don't really care why. They just want to know what they need to do. If I employ somebody, we'll say some 20-plus, they want to know why. If I say, pour a candle this way, they're going to say, well, why? I'd rather do it this way. Well, now I've got to take the time to really explain to that person, well, do it this way because it's safer, it's faster, and it's more effective. You can try it that way for about 10 minutes if you like, and then come talk to me. And sometimes I think our generation really needs that opportunity to learn it on their own, and they really need the opportunity to know all of the reasons why we do something. And I've learned that if I can put that out to my employees, if I can put those processes and those procedures out to my employees and how we arrived at this process, we have a very effective staff. And we have a staff that really melds well together. not just with each other, but with the older generation as well, because the older generation may not want to know all of those details that the millennials want to know. But if we can get everybody on the same page with the why and the how and exactly what to do, what our mission is entirely, I find that we're able to put together a team that works very well together, and we can really start gelling on those core values that drive the company forward in the first place.
Thanks, Aaron.
Just some specific feedback to your question. I handle hiring, and might not work for your company or whatnot, but based on.
I don't have employees, just
Okay.
FYI. So I'm a consultant, I just help other people with these
Okay,
questions.
so just based off of that question of what specifically can you do, we are culture-based in our company now. My past company was not. So phone interview, and in your job description or your posting, use that as your chance. You should know within 5 minutes if you're asking, are you looking for a certain culture? Are you looking for what type of management style do you work best in? What kind of environment do you work best in? You can narrow down those people pretty quickly. If they have one-word answers or one sentence, they're probably not for your company. If they can elaborate and they have specifics that they want, then they might be for your company. So I go back to the posting, I ask them questions specifically. If you're desperate for people, those people are just going to click apply, apply, apply. If they know that they're looking into it more, they might be more for your company. But
So use the postings as more of a qualifier right off the bat. And
absolutely.
gets back to what you touched on, employee retention. I mean, from an employer standpoint, you've got to look at the cost of retention and get the right person in there and in the right seat, so you don't lose them in 6 months, a year, 3 or 4 years.
I'm just curious to any business owner. I mean, I've heard other people use, I don't want to, well, I guess personality tests and that type of thing to find, not a lot of it's supply and demand, you know, who's available, who wants to work for you. But I mean, are those effective at all? I have no experience with them.
Yeah, so we use 3 as a disc profiles and some other things, and I use that at the executive level all the way through. They're a tool. I don't say that they're an absolute. But I find that if I'm helping somebody hire salespeople for, say, they're starting out in a new territory, there is definitely a certain profile that is going to be far, far more successful. And I can guarantee this person over here is going to fail. They're not even going to get out the door. So I use the profiles a lot to start sorting. Do they have the basic skill set and the basic thinking processes to be successful in that business, in that particular position? Sometimes we're 100% accurate, sometimes we're not, but it certainly allows the management to say your success, your possibility of success here is much greater or much less. And so, no, I'm not going to take that risk in putting you in that position for both of us to fail. I'll put you over here where you're much more happy and you're much more functional. But yes, it's a great tool to help drive people to the right position for the right reason.
And I've used it the other way, where I don't require them to take it to hire the employee, but I use it to find my next client. To say, hey, this person is really good at this according to their aptitude test. So we are qualified to help you. And it gives a little more substance to them to feel comfortable that, yes, we know what we're talking about.
Anything else on that?
How would you, everything that I've heard from this market is just, people cannot find help. Is that a common theme around here? That's what I keep hearing from clients, is that, I just can't, is it they can't find help or they can't find the help they want, I guess is the question.
Well, there's still,
It's still more probably what they want, but there is both. There's
still 6,000 job openings in Cass County?
Exactly,
And retention. They'll find them and they'll get them, but either the culture doesn't match or there's another job all of a sudden that's $5,000 more and they're gone.
Yeah.
Because there's no,
a lot of competition.
employers are having a hard time keeping loyalty amongst their employees. And that might be part of the culture thing. Again, connecting with what they need to do to retain that age group.
Right.
And it might be partly because there's just so many opportunities for people to look at jobs now.
you know?
You know, there is oh, sorry. I was in a group meeting yesterday, and we were talking about, this company was hiring an operations manager, and the salary was too low, and the company wasn't able to go up. So she wanted to stay in contact with this gentleman who would be relocating, you know, from out of state. And what she continued to do was share communications regarding their company, values, how they work, how they communicate. And he, after about a month, called her back up and said, you know, I made a mistake, I'd like to join your company. And it was still for less than what he wanted, but you know, when you can show anytime, tell your story, what got you to where you are as an organization, and being able to share that, that's money. I truly believe that.
That's even where online tools from an employer standpoint, your website can do a lot of that. That's why a website's so important. That's the first place a millennial is going to go to see who you are and what you do, what type of culture you have. So much of that is right there for everyone to see.
And videos are important too. You know, being able to watch a video.
They love videos.
Those millennials.
Can't even read a paragraph. Watch the video.
Right, exactly.